Hello. This is Back to Front and An Open Heart by the Dalai Lama. We were going to start the afflictions. They sound fun. It's early and I'm sorry for being an early person. We have spoken of the afflictive emotions and the harm they wreak upon our spiritual practice. It is, I must admit, natural for us to experience emotions such as anger and desire. However, this does not mean that we didn't need to do anything about them. This does not mean that we needn't do anything about them. I am aware that in Western psychology, expressing feelings and emotions, even anger, is often encouraged. Here we go. There you go. This is what I've been complaining about all along, isn't it? Is he just here to just give me a quick tap round the cheeks? Certainly, many people have endured traumatic experiences in their past, and if these emotions are suppressed, they may indeed cause lasting psychological harm. In such cases, as we say in Tibet, when the conch shell is blocked, the best way to clean it is to blow into it. Having said this, I do feel that it is important for spiritual practitioners to adopt a stance against strong emotions such as anger, attachment and jealousy, and devote themselves to developing restraint. Instead of allowing ourselves to indulge in occurrences of strong emotions, we should work at decreasing our propensity towards them. I think if like he's saying, you're a spiritual practitioner and you've got a wider view on everything, then maybe this is a possible thing. If we ask ourselves whether we are happier when angry or when calm, the answer is evident. As we discussed earlier, the troubled mental state that results from afflictive emotions immediately disturbs our inner equilibrium, causing us to feel unsettled and unhappy. In our quest for happiness, our main aim should be to combat these emotions. We can achieve this only by applying deliberate and sustained effort over a long time. We Buddhists would say many successive lifetimes. Buddhism's really big on familiarity. They call it familiarity. And I think it's just basic sort of like practice. So they really think like if you practice, then it just becomes second nature. So some meditations are literally just that, you practicing your feelings of love or whatever, and then means that you can just recall them really quickly. As we have seen already, mental afflictions do not disappear of their own accord. They do not simply vanish over time. They come to an end only as a result of conscious effort to undermine them, diminish their force, and ultimately eliminate them altogether. It's like warlike terminology there. See, I think that from a mental health point of view, eliminate, diminish, and undermine, they're all valid terms. But I wonder whether the translations would be, whether they could be translated differently. I wonder what the Tibetan means, those words. If we wish to succeed, we must know how to engage in the combat with our afflictive emotions. We begin our practice of the Buddha's Dharma by reading and listening to experienced teachers. This is how we develop a better picture of our predicament within the vicious cycle of life, and become familiar with the possible methods to practice to transcend it. Such study leads to what is called understanding derived through listening. This is a really Buddhist sort of like way of saying things. Understanding derived through listening. They really have thought about things into a very distilled level. So there are many ways to understand something, is what they're saying. And this particular one is through listening. It is an essential foundation for our spiritual evolution. We must then process the information we have studied to the point of profound conviction. This leads to understanding derived through contemplation. Okay, so this is where they're breaking it down. So we have an understanding that we get from hearing it. Oh yeah, that makes sense. Then we sit and think about it. Yeah, that really does make sense. And then you have a conviction. Once we have gained true certainty of the subject matter, we meditate on it so that our mind may become completely absorbed by it. This leads to an empirical knowledge called understanding derived through meditation. Okay. Completely absorbed by it. So you've thought about it, you've heard it, someone said this is a good idea, listened. Then you've thought about it, thought, yeah, that is a really good idea. Then you've taken it into meditation, your commitment, you've taken it into meditation, and it then absorbs into you. So I suppose that's if you like, I think we do that kind of process, don't we, anyway? But I suppose if you can do it consciously. These three levels of understanding are essential in making true changes in our lives. With greater comprehension derived through study, our conviction becomes more profound, engendering a more powerful realization in meditation. If we lack understanding derived through study and contemplation, even if we meditate very intensely, we have difficulty becoming familiar with the subject we are meditating on. Yeah, fair enough. Be it the devious nature of our afflictions or the subtle character of our emptiness, this would be similar to being forced to meet someone whom we don't wish to meet. It is therefore important to implement these three stages of practice in a consecutive manner. This is very Gelugpa. So, this is so often it's like, this is the subject, this is the benefits, this is how you do it. So what he's saying is, do all three. Hear it, make your mind up, think about it, meditate on it. He said this is the most powerful way to really change your mind. Our environment also has a great influence on us. We need a quiet environment in order to undertake our practice. More important, we need solitude. By this I mean a mental state free from distractions, not simply time spent alone in a quiet place. Right, so we're parents. We don't have a quiet space in our mind. We've only got children in our mind. Whether it's at the forefront, actually like losing it in our eyeballs, or in the back of our mind, worrying about like with me, levels of anxiety, what the future holds, and all of this. So, solitude has to be reached for a parent through compassion and through you have to go through all of the teachings to get to a solitude. You can't like just shove the kids out of your mind, although I'm sure there's a point where that might be useful, just saying, oh, I'm not going to think about them. But I don't think as parents we can do that, because you end up with a disconnect between your reality outside of meditation and your reality in meditation, which I don't feel is a groovy thing. So for me, and at the moment, I have to say at the moment, because the things change rapidly, don't they? When I'm going into meditation at the moment, my bodhicitta at the beginning, the wish for all living beings to be free from suffering, is very much centered around my children, and then reaches out from my children to all children and to all adults, you know. So, and I'm becoming a better person, grabbing my anger and all of these things for my kids and for all people. So the solitude you're looking for is I think it's more like of a sort of like clarity, a spiritual clarity that all beings, you're not just clouded up with a few beings. But I need to think about that more. Okay, let's do our most destructive enemy.